Today, I'm going to be showing you an easy way to make this Japanese holiday favorite, so stick around. Welcome back to No Recipes. I'm Mark Matsumoto, and I'm here to show you how to elevate your everyday meals. So hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out. While many countries have a long tradition of making sweets using dried fruits and nuts around Christmas time, Japan has its own version of Christmas cake made using a tender sponge with strawberries and cream. The tradition dates back to 1922 when Fujiya, a Western-style sweets maker, started producing Christmas cakes and selling them through their shop in Ginza. Western-style desserts were considered an exotic luxury at the time, but by the 1970s, Christmas cake was as iconic as the Santa Claus that sits on top of it. You see, Christmas is a secular holiday here in Japan, and since families get together at New Year's the week after, Christmas is usually spent with friends and significant others, eating fried chicken and this delicious cake. I'm not much of a baker, so I've simplified this into a roll cake that only takes about 10 minutes in the oven. And by turning the strawberries and cream into a beautiful snowscape, I've even avoided that dreaded piping bag. Before I jump into this week's video, here's a quick Patreon update. I set aside over half my week to shoot and edit these videos because it's what I love doing, but I'm currently earning less than I spend on them. To ensure I'm able to continue making these videos for you guys, I'm asking for your support. By becoming a patron, you not only help support future videos, you also get access to some exclusive perks like a private Discord chat room and behind-the-scenes footage. Since the last update, we're up 7 patrons for a total of 19 awesome supporters of this channel. But we're still a little ways from our first goal. So if you enjoyed these videos, please consider becoming a patron to support this channel. For our sponge cake, we're gonna need a teaspoon of butter for the pan, 75 grams of cake flour, 4 large eggs, 100 grams of granulated sugar, 50 grams of butter that you'll need to melt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. To roll and decorate the cake, you're gonna need 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream, 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and 10 to 12 small ripe strawberries. The first thing you want to do is preheat the oven to 355 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. Now we're gonna prepare a 10.5 by 15.5 inch jelly roll pan by lining it with parchment paper. It's important to crease the paper to fit the bottom of the pan like this. Otherwise, the corners are gonna lift up, making your sponge cake an uneven thickness. Once I'm satisfied with the fit, I like to cut a slit into the corners of the parchment paper so they're perfectly square. Then I'm gonna spread a teaspoon of soft butter all over the parchment paper. This isn't 100% necessary, but it guarantees your cake won't stick to the paper. Next, we need to sift the cake flour. I just dump the flour into a strainer set over a sheet of parchment paper, and then I shake the flour through by tapping it against my hand. By doing it this way, it ensures you don't force any clumps of flour through. And by having it on the paper, it makes it much easier to pour into the mixer later on. Now I'm gonna break the eggs into a heat-safe bowl of an electric mixer. As long as it's glass or stainless steel, you should be good. I'm also gonna add the granulated sugar and vanilla extract. I've prepared a hot water bath that I'm gonna set the bowl in and gently whisk this until the mixture comes up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 Celsius. If you don't have a thermometer, you want to bring the eggs up to about the temperature of bath water. Heating the eggs like this starts to denature their proteins, making it easier to whisk them into a stable foam. Okay, that should be good. So let's get this out of the bath and onto the mixer. I'm gonna set the mixer to high speed and let this run for about 5 minutes. You'll notice the eggs increase in volume significantly, and they're gonna turn a light creamy yellow color. That's because the proteins in the eggs have unfolded, and they're creating a network which allows them to trap microscopic bubbles of air. Okay, this is looking perfect, so let's turn down the mixer to medium speed. Then I'm gonna slowly pour in the melted butter. Once the butter has incorporated into the eggs, turn down the mixer to low speed. Now you want to gradually mix in the sifted flour until the batter is nice and smooth. You may need to scrape down the sides of the bowl once to make sure you don't have any clumps of flour. Alright, let's get this batter into our prepared sheet pan. Once I've poured the batter in, I'm just going to use an offset spatula or pastry knife to smooth off the top. This silicone one made by Gear is perfect for this. Now I'm going to give the sheet pan a few good whacks on the counter to get rid of any large air bubbles in the batter. This is important or the surface of your cake is going to end up looking like the moon. I'm going to pop this in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. The amount of time is going to depend largely on how accurate and efficient your oven is, so keep an eye on it. This is starting to look good, but I'm just going to check it with a toothpick to make sure it's cooked through. There's no batter sticking to the pick, so we're good to go. I'm going to take this out of the oven and set it on a wire rack to cool to room temperature. While we wait for that to cool, let's prep the strawberries and cream for the inside of the cake. For the strawberries, you want to make sure they're very dry after you've washed them. Otherwise, your cake's going to end up soggy. For the berries that go into the cake, I'm going to go ahead and slice the tops off, and then I'm going to cut them in half. These are a variety called Sagahonoka. Their color isn't great, but they're relatively firm and very sweet and fragrant, which makes them perfect for going inside the cake. Now we need to whip 1 cup of cream together with 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. Be sure to set aside the remaining half cup of cream and 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar for later. I'm using an egg beater for this, but you can use an electric mixer or a whisk. You want to whip the cream until it holds firm peaks. Otherwise, the cream's gonna squeeze out the sides of the cake when you roll it up. Just be careful not to over whip the cream, or it's gonna clump up and turn into butter. Okay, that looks about right. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this into the fridge until the cake is done cooling. Once the cake has cooled down to room temperature, I'm gonna peel it away from the parchment paper. Make sure you peel it away all the way to the center, otherwise you're gonna have some problems when you try to roll it. Then I'm gonna use a bread knife to slice about 2 inches of cake off from the left edge at an angle. This not only gets rid of some excess cake, it also eliminates the seam when you roll it up. Now I'm gonna spread the whipped cream all over the top surface of the sponge cake. An offset spatula or a pastry knife is perfect for this, but any long flat edge will work just fine. Use the cream to fill in any thin spots, and be sure to get it all the way out to the edges. The only area you don't want to spread the cream is on the cut surface on the left edge. Now I'm gonna line up the sliced strawberries about 2 inches away from the right edge. To roll the cake, just turn it 90 degrees so the side with the strawberries is closest to you. Then you want to use the parchment paper to roll the edge of the cake up and over the strawberries. Now I'm just gonna roll the rest of the cake up, making sure I don't roll the parchment paper into it. The trick here is to roll the cake tightly enough so you don't have any air gaps, but not so tightly that you're squeezing all of the cream out of the sides. Once you're happy with your roll, wrap it up with the excess parchment paper and set the whole roll on a sheet pan with the seam side down. You want to refrigerate this for at least an hour to set the cream. Once the cake's had a chance to cool, unwrap it and use a bread knife to trim both ends off of the roll. Now we're gonna make it snow with powdered sugar. I'm using a tea strainer for this, but any fine mesh sieve will work. Let's transfer our Christmas cake to a serving platter before we finish it off. For the topping, I'm gonna add the remaining half cup of heavy cream to a bowl, along with a tablespoon of powdered sugar. Then I'm gonna whip this until it forms soft peaks. You want it soft enough that you can pour it off of a spoon, but you don't want it so soft that it's runny. I'm also gonna wash and dry 5 to 7 strawberries and then trim the tops off. How many strawberries you'll need will depend on how you're decorating the cake, as well as the size of the berries. The varietal I'm using for the garnish is called Amao, and it's juicy, vibrant red and has a great balance of sweetness and acidity. Alright, let's finish the cake off. I'm gonna go ahead and spoon the soft whipped cream on top of the roll like big fluffy drifts of snow. Then I'm gonna top it off with the trimmed strawberries and decorations. I like to stagger the berries so I can fit more of them on top, but how you decorate your cake is up to you, and it's a chance to get creative. In Japan, Christmas cakes are often decorated with sugar Santas and chocolate placards reading Merry Christmas. But this is totally optional, so if you celebrate a different holiday, feel free to replace these with something more appropriate. To give my Christmas cake a little sparkle, I'm gonna sprinkle on a few edible silver dragées. Let's add a few more strawberries to the plate. And our Christmas cake is done. With soft, pillowy layers of tender sponge cake, rolled with sweet strawberries and cream, this Japanese Christmas cake is a delightfully light end for any holiday meal. Although a perfectly round Christmas cake with piped cream may look prettier, my version tastes just as good, and personally, I kinda like the rustic look. This cake is also easy enough to make it a fun project to do with kids that I guarantee will taste better than a gingerbread house. Like I said before, I'm not much of a baker, so if I can make this, you can too. So I hope you'll join in on this Japanese tradition this year. If you had as much fun watching this video as I did making it, you can support us by giving this a thumbs up and by sharing this with all your friends who have a sweet tooth. If you already like and share my videos on a regular basis and want to do more, you can support us by becoming a patron on Patreon, which helps support the making of future videos. Alright, I hope your holiday season is off to a good start, and I'll catch you in the next one. Check us out on Instagram at NoRecipes.